Hello everyone, welcome to the sewing workshop, and we're going to ruffle again, and this is a brilliant skirt. And the idea actually came when Ella and I had lots and lots of conversations back and forth, and she came up with this idea of using the flamenco technique for the Spanish ruffles that they do with a circle skirt, and just add straight ruffles over the top so that you get the effect of going outwards without the hassle of having to have connectors and sewing them on, etc, etc. Let's just have a quick look. The key to this is to sew your ruffles onto a circle in 3 layers. And the top layer you can put a ribbon on, which was my first idea, which you see in a minute in the video. I've changed my mind because I didn't think it really matched. I didn't have enough of the polka dot that I wanted to use. And so I used stripes here, and if you want to get prepared for 4th of July, this is probably it. You've got the Patriot fabric and you've got polka dots and whatnot. Let me show you how it works. I'm using my circle skirt pattern, which comes with a yoga waistband and a regular waistband for this, but you can use your own, or you can watch the video where I show you how to draw your own. If you don't want to buy a pattern, you don't have to. You can just make it yourself, and the link is in the info box on the right hand side of this video. So we're going to start by creating a fairly flat, smooth part at the top. So you want to measure down. This is where we're going to be sewing, and you want to measure down 1 inch and what is this, 3/4 down to here. And that is 1 3/4 in centimeters, is 4.5 centimeters. So go down here 1 3/4 inches. Now we also want to mark the next line where we're going to have the ruffle which goes underneath. So this time I'm going for 2.25 inches down, and another 2.25 and 2.25, and I do this again. Another 2.25. Here we go. Now your ruffles need to be cut 5 inches wide, so that the first one ends there, second one ends there, and third one ends here. Now one thing that you already know that I like doing, I like to make templates out of this by simply cutting the lines instead of transferring them, like it's really difficult. I'm going to cut around here on either side of your line. I'm cutting my skirt as one big circle, so fold it over once, fold it over from the other side, so that you get 4 layers here. And now the clever ones amongst you will have worked out that if you have the layers here, ta-da! Actually, you don't need this to be longer, do you? You can have it shorter. You can in fact end here, but I'm not going to cut this off now. I'm going to do that. So take your tailor's chalk and mark the line where you're going to attach the first ruffle and the second ruffle, like this. And then, you might have guessed it, it's actually really simple like this. See, I've got them on. And then for the next skirt, you do not need to draw them again because you've already done your work, right? Then you open out your complete circle, and if you want to, you can just, you know, connect these. That's all good. Now I need to do the ruffles. And how do I know how much ruffle I need for each one of those layers is always a question on everybody's lips. And the best thing to do is to just measure around. This is 9 inches, and I want to gather it twice the amount roughly. So 9 inches by 4 is 36. Well, let's say you do it 40 inches, you do it once across your fabric. That's like 23, 25 a meter. Yeah, so that's the first one. I might want to write this down. This is a meter or 40 inches roughly. I mean, you can always do a little bit more, just be on the safe side. Measure this one round, that's 12 inches. So 12 times 4, and that's 48 inches or 122 centimeters. And then I'm going to also measure my very last one. So simple, 16. So I do 16 times 4, and that is 64 inches, and 64 inches, yes, goodness me, 4 inches is about £1.60 m. Make sure that your ruffles have at least 160, 122, 1 meter, so that you don't have to put any together afterwards. So I can now start cutting my ruffles, and I have to decide which one is going to go on the top and which one is going to go lower down. Now I actually have to say, because I did this last week already, I have got most left of this and least left of this, and then this one is somewhere in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one first, because that'll work the best. So I'm just going to cut this rest here, what I've got, and I'm going to cut myself some 5-inch strips. Don't forget that if this is the whole length, 1 meter wide, I would need it at least twice, yeah, to get that 1 meter I need to put on. So I'm going to cut 5 inches of this twice. And if you're going for a really ruffly skirt, you might want to even do it 3 times. I'm just going to do this now because that's all I've got left, and it doesn't really matter, does it? If I don't use it, I don't use it. I need 1.22 m, and if I want to work this out, this one, just so you can see how I do it in my head, is go across here, that's 44 inches across, okay, so that's one length. So I need this 3 times at least as well. So I'm going to move this over. And cut myself 3 of these. And for the lower layer, where I actually need 1.60 m or 64 inches, that's way more than this is wide. So I'm going to cut everything I've got here, and I'm hoping that gets me 4. And another one. Ooh, just, can you see? Whoa, that is very close. So the first step, just like the skirt last week, is to attach my strips together. So cut your Joanne labels off and sew them together across. Then, unlike last week, we are going to overlock both sides. Okay, that's really important. Overlock both sides, close them here. So I've got long strips that are clean. So I have now done exactly this. I have overlocked both sides. I've turned them up. Now I'm going to press all the strips quickly. Here we've got the seam allowance. Obviously that all is pressed apart, and you can see, oh, one thing I wanted to say actually is use a big stitch length when you do this. This is 3.5 because this small stitch length looks really homemade. Don't want that. Let's have a closer look at my ruffler foot before it goes on, just in case you haven't seen this before. You've got here like a little dial which you can move over. So you can either, ruffle every step, every 6 step, every 12 step. And then you can also adjust the dial here as to how much it is. And this is really just practice. Right, we want to start with the ruffle we've got most of, which is a pink one in my case. And I'm just starting in one point. I don't need to pin this on. I can just go and sew this on the sewing machine. I just wanted to check that I have enough before I start all this, because it's really not nice when you find out halfway through you haven't really got enough. So I'm going to just check this. By the looks of it, this just about works out. Look, goes on here, 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 here. Yes, I've got plenty, so I know that will go on. So great stuff. I'm going to start with the lowest layer, and I'm going to start a little bit over. And now let the games begin. I'm going to line this up. You see, there's my white line just above. is guide it along the line all the way around. This is so clever and so simple. And I didn't come up with that idea. Okay. And round and round and round I go. So before I get to the end, I'm going to stop so that I can join these two together. And I'm going to just overlock a bit off so I can see where I need to go to. And cut off my excess. See? I can just see that that will be good. Secure my stitch, and then when I've done all of them, I'm going to overlock each time this side, and then I'm going to join them and sew them together. I'm going to just put this on there. Oh, it's so cute. Okay, so again, we don't start exactly at the beginning. Same thing as before. All the way around. Line it up with that side. You know, this takes all the headache out of a ruffle skirt. It's so simple and really effective. And I've gotten to my last and final layer. Isn't that cool? Just all the way around. So now I need to tidy up my ends here. So you can see I've just overlocked this, and so just turn it over. Join this together. There we go. Turn it back to the other side. And make sure it's attached. So I'm just going to join these two bits together here. Cut off my threads. And I do the same with that layer, obviously, and that layer. Next we're going to iron out these little seams we've closed. Now I've decided that for my waistband I'm going to use this stuff, and I think I might just call myself some bias binding to go over this in the same style and stripes. So I've got my waistband cut, and with the rest of this I'm just going to cut myself a little bit of bias binding to go all the way around, because I think that will be tremendous. So cut yourself the bias, fold over so that you get the 90-degree angle, cut through the center like that, and fold it over again. Always fold this stuff so that you have as little as can be. There we go, and that should be plenty to go all the way around. Nobody's going to see those joins. So fold it in half, see? I think that's going to be nice. And now I'm going to just put these edge to edge, start here and sew those on. I'm not going to pin this, I'm just going to go on a sewing machine and do it. You can just do foot width, and then I'm going to roll this down, and then we can top stitch it down, and it'll give it a really nice effect as well. Right, this is all sewn on. Roll this down like that and stitch it on. How pretty is that? That's very cool, isn't it? Just there. So I'm going to do that all the way around. So now this is all lovely and clean. We're going to join the back together. There are actually plenty of techniques how to get a waistband on, and I'm just going to stick with Bob Standard, really simple. We're going to stitch it on from the inside first. Right, all pinned, fits in perfect. I'm going to sew it all on. Now while I'm at it, I give this a good press upwards, and I can press this stuff here as well so it's a bit flatter, and press my ruffles down a bit as well because it's really, really ruffly. Then the top edge is turned in and folded down, pinned in, and well, you can guess what happens then. We're just going to stitch over it. And as if by magic, all pinned. When you start sewing though, sew again where the seam is, because we're going to have to start and stop again, so we want that all in one position so we can turn that to the back when it's worn. Finally, I'm going to put my elastic in, and I have very wide elastic. I just cut it back so I have got a little bit of freedom on either side. There's my seam and there's the top. So I'm just going to go in where I left my gap and thread it through until I get to the other end. Take out the safety pin, overlap it, stitch down a little bit. See, just that overlap will do. I've done that now, so all I need to do is just like get it all in here. So this now comes to 18, and that's about 3 inches smaller. I think that's just right. So it goes over the hips and sits nicely and comfortable around the waist. All I have to do now is close it and skirt finished. I have also just taken my overlocker and just set the teeth on there and went all the way around. Possibly in retrospect, maybe cut it off before you put everything on and overlock it so you don't get caught anywhere in the skirt. That's the only thing that maybe might happen, and but that's up to you how you want to. And there we go, beautiful ruffle skirt all done. I think we can safely say this is a fantastic technique. Look at that, it goes bigger towards the bottom, and well, what can I say? I think it's beautiful. It's going to make a little girl really happy. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week for another ruffle skirt. That time we're going to do a gypsy version.